Hello, Happy New Year, and welcome to Textile Talks. I'm Amy Milne, Executive Director of the Quilt Alliance, and I want to thank you for joining us today as we start our very first Textile Talks for 2026. And I'd like to welcome our special guest presenter, Amy Barickman. I'll tell you a little bit more about Amy and invite her to join me in just a moment. If you're new here, let me tell you a little bit about the Textile Talk series. We're a weekly series presented on Wednesdays at 2 p.m. Eastern Time by the Quilt Alliance that I represent, and our three partner organizations shown here: International Quilt Museum, Studio Art Quilt Associates, and Surface Design Association. And all Textile Talks are recorded and available via YouTube. My colleague, Lucy Shaken, who's on with me today, will enter the link for the Textile Talks YouTube recording playlist in the chat box now. You'll find we are getting near to 300. That's our next milestone of Textile Talks that we've presented. And you can find all the ones we've done so far on YouTube. I'll also ask Lucy to put a link to our Textile Talks donation page. Your support in any amount on any day is always appreciated. Let me tell you a little bit about the Quilt Alliance for those who don't know about us. The Quilt Alliance's mission is to document, preserve, and share the stories of all quilts and all quilt makers. Our projects include Quilters Save Our Stories, or QSOS, which is a collection of oral history interviews with quilters archived with our partners at the Library of Congress and the University of Kentucky. QSOS was launched 26 years ago in 1999, and our video documentation project is called Go Tell It. Anyone who would like to share a quilt story can participate and upload their own videos to the Go Tell It collection. To find out more about the Quilt Alliance and our projects, you can visit our website and consider becoming a member or a donor. We rely on this kind of community support to carry out our important mission. And just a reminder, if you didn't know, we have a quilt challenge going on right now, the 2026 Tell Your Story Quilt Challenge. And that entry deadline is coming up on January 15th. You can check out our website for complete details. And I'll ask Lucy to put that link in the chat too. You can find it on the homepage of the Quilt Alliance or via this link. Just a quick reminder to use the Q&A box for any questions you have for Amy Barickman. You can put those questions in at any time while we're during the presentation, and we'll reserve a little time at the end to do a Q&A with Amy. Also, if you have greetings or if you need help with technical issues, you can use the chat box for those comments. And please look for the survey that will pop up in your browser when we end today, because your commentary and your suggestions for improvement are always appreciated. We have enabled Zoom's closed captioning feature, so if you prefer not to view the captions or you want to turn them on, look for the CC or live captions button, or look within your Zoom settings to make those changes. So we are thrilled to have Amy Barickman here with us today with an audience of almost, over 300 people. That's fantastic. And I'd like to thank our friend Michelle Muska of Aliso for recommending that we invite Amy to speak. Hey, Amy.
Hello, hello.
There you are. I'm going to give you a little bit of background before Amy begins her presentation, just so you can get a little context about what she's going to share with us. Amy grew up rooted in the sewing and crafting world, watching her mother build a leading retail store in West Des Moines, Iowa. Her entrepreneurial spirit emerged early with a high school teddy bear business and continued after college when she founded Indigo Junction, a sewing pattern and book publishing company. Over 29 years, Indigo Junction has discovered more than 45 artists, published 80 books, and released 1,200 plus patterns. Amy's popular titles include Fabric Flowers, the Magic Pattern Book, and her best selling Vintage Notions. In fall 2025, she introduced Love You to Pieces, a gift of friendship, featuring vintage fabric characters, handmade quilts, and online bonus PDF patterns. After selling Indigo Junction to Prim Consumer USA, Amy created her Vintage Modern Makers Primer courses, exploring vintage textiles, techniques, and upcycling. With 30 plus years of industry experience, she is recognized as an expert in textile history and has built an extensive archive of vintage fashion and sewing publications. Her research led her to her muse, Mary Brooks Picken, inspiring vintage notions and her mission to share Mary's timeless creativity. In 2023, Amy launched ABC Amy Barickman Creative, a joint venture with Colonial Patterns. Her first collection, Treasured Threads, features fabric panels inspired by rare vintage art, followed by vintage inspired hand embroidery designs and colorful flour sack towels. Through amybarickman.com and her social platforms, Amy continues to inspire a vibrant, creative community. Subscribe to her newsletter and follow her on YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook for vintage sewing, crafting, and design inspiration. And we do have a link to share today that is one page, one stop shopping for links that Amy's going to share. And I'll ask Lucy to put that in the chat now. So, welcome to Textile Talks, Amy. I will turn off my sharing so that you can start yours. Thank you so much for being here.
Oh, thank you, Amy. It's great to be here and be a part of this wonderful opportunity to reach so many people and share my new book.
Awesome.
I'll quick show everybody the book, and then I'll pop into the um, PowerPoint and we'll go through it. So this is the book. It's a little friendship book. So it's a smaller format, and I just wanted people to see the size there. So I'm gonna pop over and get myself started here on the sharing the screen. This is fun. This is my first time doing this particular uh, presentation. So here we go. All right. How's that look, Amy? Are we there?
It looks great.
Oh, super. Okay. So Love You to Pieces, a culmination of a lifelong journey. And this book is many, many years in the making, based on my love for vintage and product development over many years, where vintage has inspired me. It's also a great opportunity for me to honor the friendships that I've made along the way, both personally and professionally. So you're going to meet a lot of people through my presentation, and I'm going to share some amazing treasures. But I thought what I'll do is I'll start out by taking you back into some history of where I got started and how, and then I'll actually read you different passages from the book. And then I'll reflect back on those passages and review the quilts and the characters, toys, dolls, bears, and the stories behind those as we go through the book. So let's get started. A little bit about my background. I have always been surrounded by creativity, and this is an example of quilts that I've been surrounded by. So I grew up in a home where my mother had a wonderful collection, and whether we had those quilts on our beds or we had those quilt tops hanging on the wall, you can see there my brother and I standing in front of a stretched quilt top on the wall. there was always, first, there was always my mom. And really, it starts there on the picture on the left with her mother. Her mother is was an amazing creative artist who actually painted. She did all sorts of textile arts. And there she is holding the Raggedy Ann that her mother made my mother. So that is my mom sitting there with the bow on her head. And in the center picture, I'm holding the same Raggedy Ann doll. And then on the right, you can see my mother with her gingham dress, another vintage textile I love. And she made all my clothes, was a home ec teacher. So you can imagine that I learned to sew at a young age. And I was also exposed to business at a young age. There I am wearing one of the quilt coats that my mother had created through salvaged quilts with, she had a business with her friend called Bertha's Bed. And I'll show you a picture later of I just took in the last few weeks of my mom with her friend Peggy and just visiting Des Moines. On the right, you can see my mother and I. We're up in Hamilton, Missouri at a Missouri Star event, and she is holding one of the dolls that she made from the patterns in the book. This is the Sunshine Polly doll. And you can see I'm wearing another handmade by Donna project. I'm wearing my Anytime Topper pattern that's featuring some of our treasured threads. So when it comes to this story of Love You to Pieces kind of being a full circle moment, I'm going to take you back in time to 1995, and this was the mail order catalog for Indigo Junction that I had produced. And I was lucky enough to, with my mom's support from her creative people that frequented her store, we had a lot of great designers that had developed doll patterns. So initially, Indigo Junction had Raggedy Ann's, teddy bears, bunnies, and I was lucky enough to work with some extremely talented designers, including, I'm just going to point out on the cover of that Indigo Junction catalog, the reindeer wearable art, which is a Patrick Lose design. And those of you in the quilt world probably are familiar with Patrick, his wonderful designs and his fabrics. So that it was the beginnings of Indigo Junction. I went on to publish many books, booklets, as well as hardback books. And here's a sampling of some of the most popular books. One of the themes that I've always loved to focus on, in addition to vintage, is upcycling and recycling. And you can see here where the denim redesign book, of course, is just upcycling and embellishing denim. The buttons, I love buttons and creating with buttons. And then that Sew It book was really my first example where I resurfaced true vintage content and republished it, similar to what I did with my Vintage Notions book that we'll see right here. So here I am with one of the original newsletters from the Women's Institute of Domestic Arts and Sciences. And this was a correspondence school based in Scranton, Pennsylvania. Mary Brooks Picken founded it. She went on to write the Singer Sewing book. So in my vintage journey, this book and Mary's inspiration has been incredibly impactful. So I wanted to give you a little look at that book. I also have sewing patterns that I've published recently in a new format, more of a leaflet format than my previous Indigo Junction style. And there are a few of them there on the page. This is an example again where the love of quilting, the love of upcycling, you can see here in the Anytime Topper made with a quilt top. And with all the quilted and patchwork fashion, this is just a great pattern, simple, easy, and a great literal canvas to show art. So a few of the examples of the logos from my brand. over the years, and I wanted to draw your attention to the logo at the bottom. This is Amy Barickman Creative. This is the brand that I have launched my newer work with and the Love You to Pieces book, along with the colonial patterns, treasured threads, and the toweling that can be used for so many different creative projects. So Love You to Pieces, a gift of friendship. And friendship. So this is the piece of the book that has just been so meaningful to share with others and see people share the book, be inspired, and really take a moment to appreciate not only the handmade work of others that you'll find in the book, but those really those wonderful friendships that maybe you make through your creativity and your community. This is just I just feel so lucky to be here with the creative community and the sponsors like Quilt Alliance. So the book actually has given me the opportunity to combine two of my passions. First, my passion for collecting and curating vintage. And here you can see more of the different things that I collect, whether they be publications, great sewing books, buttons, fabrics, children's books. I have a large collection, and of course, quilts and dolls. And I just love that Humpty Dumpty. And he didn't make it into this Love You to Pieces book, but maybe there'll be a future book in the series for Humpty Dumpty. Photography. I love nature. I love being outdoors and capturing imagery. Here, my favorite place to take those nature pictures is up near Traverse City, Michigan. I spend some time up there in the summer and just wanted to share a little bit of one of my favorite pastimes. And that embroidery you see there, the Michigan towel, is actually another book of mine, Land That I Love. And that book allows you to customize your own state art, whether it be for making a pillow, making a towel, and you can add your own personalization and customization with everything from school pennants to landmarks. So again, that was vintage inspired by vintage content that I had found in my collection. And Love You to Pieces. This is the cover of the book. And as you can see, we're going to have a combination of these fabric friends along with quilts. And I thought I'd share one of my favorite photos from the book that I captured with Sunshine Polly and her little kitty. So this is one of the dolls that is included as a PDF pattern. So how do you get those patterns? You go to the back of the book and there is a page with a QR code, and that QR code will lead you to the ability to access those patterns through your email, and you'll also be introduced to some really wonderful lessons about quilt block history and a PDF that's printable, actually even sewing projects that you can make. So I really wanted this book to be more than just a book to read, but a book to experience and maybe be able to make a treasure to companion with the book, whether you do it for yourself or maybe for a friend. And there I do want to show you, as you look at that image, the the monkey and the dolls on the left side are from my vintage collection, and the dolls on the right are from the modern makes that both Karen Kotke, who's done our yo-yo clown, and my mom Donna made the monkey and Sunshine Polly there with her brunette hair. So now I'll start reading some of the pages, and like I said, I'll circle back after I read a passage, a group of pages, and I'll talk about some of the characters and quilts on these pages. So here we go. It's story time. Everyone needs that special friend. A friend to share your secrets with, a friend to laugh with, a friend to cry with, a friend who's always there for you. A friend to share your secrets with. I had to put the monkey with the big ears here for this, and just show you the crazy fun examples of sock monkeys that are out in this world. Once you start looking for them, you'll be amazed at how many that you find. This particular handmade craft really started in the Depression, and prior to that, when every scrap of fabric was precious. And if people had a sock that maybe had too many holes, they found out a way to repurpose it and they would make toys. And along came the Nelson Sock Company in Rockford, Illinois. They started making the red heel socks, and those socks lent themselves well to making these monkeys. So it really was a woman at the Nelson Sock Company who worked there that the story is she was the one who developed the sock monkey. So you'll find these. Just keep your eyes peeled. They're such a wonderful example of, creativity, American creativity and ingenuity, and also a symbol of comfort for and a celebration of childhood, in my opinion. Everyone loves sock monkeys. Now, on the right, you'll see the quilt that is companion with the sock monkeys on the page in the book. And this is a wonderful, very heavy, thick wool workwear type quilt. And I just love how artful and modern some of these vintage quilts can look, and this is a great example of that. And again, the fun of the matching up of the quilt to the character. Here you can see the PDF pattern. So this is the actual printable that you receive through that QR code. And on the left side, you're actually looking at a copy of the original sock monkey pattern that I found. It was just a one-page sheet that had this darling graphic on it. And once I found another example from the 60s of the pattern, I decided it would be good to put both of those into the information that you receive with your PDF. So you'll get a little history with these PDFs, but you'll also get the instructions for making the various characters. And who has made more sock monkeys in the last month or so? Well, it's got to be my mom. She's going to win the prize. So here you can see some of the fun colors that we have made: blue, green, pink, red. And we know that Quilt Alliance really has a high focus on the preservation and telling the stories of our textiles and quilts. So in order to document who made this, we decided let's go ahead and add, so you can see my mom's initials there on the monkey, and she also added Nana, her term of endearment. And just to the right there, I thought I'd share with you a really fun monkey that I just purchased last weekend at First Fridays in Kansas City, the West Bottoms. So we have a wonderful once a month vintage shopping event. And I love that I found a monkey right before this textile talk. And this monkey features the pom-poms and the yarn. And so those are two signature details on those vintage monkeys you'll find. And you could have seen in the pattern those yarns are featured in the pattern. So here's my mom with just a couple weeks ago with my nieces and nephew, and they are thrilled to have the sock monkeys that their Nana made for them. So it was a really fun Christmas thanks to my mom and the handmade treasures that she shared. Speaking of her handmade treasure, this is one that she grew up with. This is a clown. She believes it was a kit because she not only had the clown as a child, she also had a quilt that had like a crib quilt that had an applique of this clown. And I've loved this clown. She loved it. I loved it for the polka dots and the fabrics and the wonderful felt hat and details. She loved it to the point the arm actually wore off. So you can see that little patch there on the left arm of the clown. Again, those well-loved stories are really what I hope this book will inspire. So my mom, I would have never known this story had we not published this book, worked together. And so my hope is as you buy the book, share the book, or just talk about the book, maybe there'll be a story that you learn from a family member or a friend related to these fabric friends and handmade companions. And again, the beautiful quilt on the page there, a friend to laugh with, a friend who's always there for you. So I could not go without sharing Ruff. And Ruff is my husband's childhood companion. You can see how well worn and loved he is. His eye is falling off, his hair has thinned out. And there we are at a recent trade show. Bob has always been by my side through my journey publishing with Indigo Junction. And here we are at the Kansas City Regional Quilt Festival. This happened back in June. And I also, photo sparked me to look up some vintage pictures of Bob and I at trade shows. So I found a quilt market image where, and this is a fun one. He is wearing the Vintage Workshop shirt. That was a company we launched. And we won the merchandising award from Quilt Market. So that was fun. And as you know, working together sometimes isn't all roses. So I don't know in this picture on the right what my attitude was at that moment, but I just thought it was a fun one. And I also wanted to point out the bears that you see, the Winnie the Pooh, and also the applique, the clothing. So Indigo Junction, through those, like Amy mentioned, 1,200 patterns over those years, we did a little bit of everything when it comes to crafts and handmade. But where did it really start for me when it comes to craft and handmade? It started with bears. And here is a fun image. This is the, oh, well, I'm going to read you the passages again, and then we're going to go back. So let me get started with this set of pages from the book and read those. It feels as though we've been friends forever, kindred spirits hand in hand, our hearts stitched together like pieces of a quilt. Now back to the bears. So this is an image of the bears that were on the page. You can see that the red one was actually a handmade bear. And the tan bear is a vintage mohair bear that was manufactured. I'm not sure if it's Stife or Ideal. And then take a look at that beautiful wool quilt. It's a smaller quilt in my collection, but I particularly love the stitching detail and the ties at the center of those blocks. So bear making. I saw my mom making bears, teaching people teddy bear making, and thought to myself when I was in high school, I could do this. I could make and sell bears. And so the Martin collection was born. And here you can see I am surrounded by my collection of bears. I made them out of coverlets. I would go to the thrift store, to Goodwill in downtown Des Moines, and find mink stoles off old coats and create bears out of real fur. I use synthetic. And of course, I had my mom and her store as a resource for all the supplies and everything I needed for this business. And I learned so much from her about business through that experience. I recently visited my aunt's home in Detroit, and upstairs in her guest room, I came upon these bears that I had gifted her when I was in high school. One was made out of an old quilt. You can see the tag there that was on the bear. And at one point, this bear had a name, but unfortunately, the sun bleached not only the quilt that the bear was made out of, but also the tag that I had made to name that bear and give it. I think I might have. I also told on those tags what the bear was made of. So, learning pattern making and sewing was part of that journey with the bear business. Now let's talk about kindred spirits hand in hand. These two little dolls are part of my mom's collection, and she believes these were WPA dolls. So back during the Depression, the Workers' Progress program would put people to work, and one of the areas of employment was making handicrafts. These dolls, there were all sorts of dolls made in these workshops across the country. And I read recently that Milwaukee probably had the largest program or factory cottage industry with 5,000 people employed making dolls. What I wanted to point out about these little characters that are so darling, they're actually only about 5 or 6 inches tall, is the pearl buttons on those dolls. And my passion for pearl buttons is deep. I have collected these treasures for years. And I think what I love about them most is every single pearl button is different, whether it's carved in a unique way or whether the pattern nature created in it is unique. And that actually led me, that passion for pearl buttons led me to launch my online courses, Vintage Modern Makers. And those courses are focused on fabrics, notions, tools, and the history behind those particular themes. The courses include not only video inspiration where I show you my collection, but they also include guest artist and expert interviews. So actually the bracelet I'm wearing is the pearl made by the artist that I interviewed in the pearl button course. Her name's Jenny Allen. She's here in Kansas City. So everything from feed sacks to um, ticking, lots of things that we talk about in Vintage Modern Makers. And I did want to point out before I tell you a little bit more about Vintage Modern Makers, the Annie doll that you see here. So this is the angel in the book, Love You to Pieces, and I love her pearl button eyes. So there's a little inspiration for making eyes. Be sure to look at your button collection. And there is a preview of some of the courses that I have created in the Vintage Modern Makers platform. Yo-yos, red work, bandanas. Love the history of bandanas and the creativity that you can enjoy crafting with them. Gingham, and then of course the ever-loved tomato pincushion. This is Tommy Tomato, the course about the history of pincushions. And you can make one with the pattern. That is made from an upcycled sweater that you see there. Our hearts stitched together like pieces of a quilt. This Raggedy Ann and Andy is featured on that page in the book. The Annie is featured, not the Andy. So that I'm sharing with you. And again, a reference to pearl buttons. Look at his cute little outfit. Here again is a picture of my grandmother with my mother and my grandfather there and Andy in the picture. So again, the creativity that my mom grew up with was such a blessing. And you can see how much she enjoyed dolls. She had there another picture that I have there is her with a rag doll that I found. So today her love for collecting and dolls continues, and that's part of the joy that I've had through this book is being able to enjoy and learn more about her doll collection at the same time we're publishing the book and creating pattern ideas, new concepts for some of the patterns in the book. And speaking of patterns, the little image in the corner you see is one of the early Indigo Junction patterns for an Annie doll. And this design is based off the original 1915 patent from the Raggedy Ann um, designer. So I thought it'd be fun. I just think that's darling. And Delana Hutchinson is the designer who crafted that and designed that for us early on in the Indigo Junction days. And here you can see a story that I'm sharing this to represent a story that my mother told me, and that is a story about the little stitched I love you on the strap of this pinafore that Annie's wearing. And many of you probably know maybe that a manufactured Raggedy Ann a lot of times will have the I love you on its body. So there you can see another story that was shared and passed down related to the dolls in the book. The Raggedy Anns you see on the left there, that couple is in the book. I loved the polka dot legs. And then the photo at the top is actually a very small, little about 5 inch, probably Knickerbocker, I think was the name, Raggedy Ann. And I remember as a child having one of those dolls. I also want to again mention how many stories people tell me when they look at this book. So this is Sharon, and I met her at Quilt Festival. I was in the Aliso booth, and Aliso Smart Irons, my friend Michelle, who recommended me for Quilt Alliance. So anyway, Sharon had a wonderful story to tell me about her Raggedy Ann and how much she's enjoyed it and continues to collect and cherish her love for the dolls. We'll get back in and do another series of pages that I'll read to you. It's story time again. Our shared stories tie us to each other, like a prized patchwork or a crazy quilt, stitched one to the other with love. Our shared stories tie us together. So this pair is the Sunshine Polly doll. This is actually we named the original pattern was the baseball head doll, or the original name for this doll was the baseball head doll. We renamed her Sunshine Polly, and you'll see to the right her quilt that was on the page and how it is a doll quilt and it has the ties. So throughout the book, you'll find references of just clever connections between the dolls and the quilts. And I reference this with the ties on the quilt to the ties on little Sunshine Polly's pigtails there. So this is the pattern. The original pattern that I found, it was actually in a Laura Wheeler craft catalog. And on the back cover of the catalog, you can see the various baseball head doll styles. There was everything from a sailor to a military man to a baby. And I have to tell you the story. My sister-in-law brought me her life-size Sunshine Polly baseball head doll, complete with red hair to match her hair. So many of these dolls were customized over the years, and we've had so much fun creating new versions. There you can see some of those dolls that I mentioned that my mom has created from the patterns. And again, one of our favorite themes is upcycling, and we've made the hair out of t-shirts and sweatshirts. So trying to make fabric easy and accessible to find, this is wonderful, a wonderful project to run to the thrift store and gather some fun fabric. You can see the gingham in the little girl in the chair. That was a man's dress shirt. And then the little boy in the sweater, that was a sweater. And the ribbing became the hat. So if you're interested in making dolls, I have created a series of skin tone colors in the Colonial Patterns ABC Amy Barickman creative line. And there you can see the doll made with one of the towels, and then she's wearing the Missouri Star Treasured Threads little shirt. So the pattern comes with the shirt and the overalls. And then there I am again in the wonderful Eliso booth, and I am showing you the full panel of these faux patchwork collections that lend themselves so well to small projects, or even the project I'm wearing there is an anytime topper made out of a triple XL chambray shirt that we found at Savers, our local thrift shop, and then a panel of the Missouri Star fabric that you can see there. Here you'll see the another page in the grouping I just shared with you, like a prized patchwork. So this is the only doll in the book that is not a vintage piece. This little Scotty, again, was an extremely popular pattern back in the day. And Mary Meyer, who also is a designer with me, she brought her talents to create this using another one of our faux patchwork panels, the postage stamp retro. So you can see the panel had two different sizes of scales of patchwork, which allows some really fun creativity. And then there is the beautiful quilt that companions it in that wonderful pink. So just to give you a peek at what the product looks like, the treasured threads, it's actually a panel, and you can see there it has a variety of prints in it that work well together. And what can you create? I love these panels for wearable art. I am wearing actually the another panel. This is the Missouri Star panel, and so these panels are great for upcycling. You can see the heart there that I actually got a stain on that wonderful pullover that was quilted, and I thought, okay, I can't let this go. So I ended up adding this heart to the sweatshirt. And then I ended up sharing that pattern on my blog. So again, on that landing page, we'll get a link to that particular post so you can find it. But we've also created an ornament pattern that you'll find on my blog for making a little heart ornament, all in the world of Love You to Pieces. Or a crazy quilt. So this is the next spread that I shared with you. It had a crazy quilt along with the crazy Jingle Jack clown. And this is one of the treasures that you will find whether you're looking on eBay or Etsy, or you're at maybe a vintage venue. Those yo-yo clowns are everywhere, and they're so much fun to see that each one is unique. They were based on this book, Jingle Jack, Jingle Bell Jack, and Miss Frances and the Ding Dong School were the originators of this story. And this little story takes you through Jean making the clown with her mother. So it's a wonderful story to teach hand sewing and yo-yo making. So again, this is one of those experiences that you can have with the Love You to Pieces book. You yourself could make yo-yos. You could go ahead and download the pattern and make the yo-yo clown. The picture there is a friend that I met at the Kansas City Regional Quilt Festival. Her name is Amy, and she came to the booth and told me a wonderful story of the fact that she had a yo-yo clown, and her mother had bought the book and made the pattern from the pattern that was provided in the back of the book. So again, preserving these stories and sharing them for future generations, this book is a great way to teach and future teach children, maybe just enjoy handwork yourself these days. I know so many of us are trying for that digital detox, and yo-yo making is one of my favorite pastimes. I want to show you the picture below Amy, and that is a picture of the yo-yo Clover yo-yo makers. So Clover Needlecraft makes wonderful tools and notions. Shout out to them for making the yo-yo makers and making so many. We've had so much fun working with those yo-yo makers over the years with Indigo Junction. Now, Crazy Quilts, this is the quilt that was the quilt featured in the book. I wanted to give you a larger view of it and then also point out some of the wonderful charm in this quilt, the moon, the star, the sun. So Crazy Quilts just offer infinite possibilities for creativity, and they can be so much fun to learn about and and research and then explore all the intricate designs that are so unique to each and every crazy quilt. This is a photo of one of my mom's crazy quilts that she was generous to share with me. And we did a YouTube episode discussing her collection and more about the history of crazy quilts. I am hoping that we will be doing that in the future, and just wanted to encourage everyone to consider joining my channel on YouTube, subscribing, getting notifications. 2026 is going to be my year for sharing my collection on YouTube. So I hope you'll join us. I hope to bring my mom on and also some of my creative friends that have so many great ideas to share with you. Pieced one to the other with love. So this combination of the double wedding ring quilt and the bear is one of my favorites. It's one of those that when I combined the two, I gathered my quilts and started pairing them up with all my characters I've collected all these years. This one just was extra special. I love the expression on the bear. I love that he was a bear, and this is a family heirloom. My great grandmother made this wedding ring quilt. So it was so exciting to think that I was going to be able to find a great match for that quilt and then share it in the book. Now I want to show you another passage, and this is a little more fun and I've heard so many people share how the book they connected with Love You to Pieces, and it brought them memories that they cherished. It brought those back. It also sometimes brought them to tears, many times brought laughter too. So here's and I think of the book being like a little bit of sunshine in our sometimes sour world these days. So I hope this little passage will bring a little sunshine to your day. Through all the bad hair days, hide our hair days, and losing our hair days, we're always ready to listen to one another. We may have different views. We may not always see eye to eye, but we see each other for who we are. My world is more colorful because of you. So I want to say, number one, thank you for watching and giving me the opportunity to share this with you. And I also want to take a moment to share those friendships I mentioned that have meant so much to me and that I can honor with this book. So pictured on the left is my friend Patrick Lose and Gary, and this is again at a recent quilt market. On the far right is Michelle Muska of Aliso, and there we are at a quilt show. We're going to be heading together to QuiltCon in Raleigh next month in February. So if you're going to be at the show, come visit us. Through the years, I've had so many talented people I've been so lucky to work with. And that picture at the top is Sarah Sporer on the left. She was a wonderful designer who's did amazing applique work with Indigo Junction. And Pat Sloan on the right. Some of you may know Pat, who has a wonderful YouTube channel and shares great techniques and insight into quilting. The picture at the bottom, I'm with Karen Kotke, the yo-yo queen. She has made many, many of our wonderful yo-yo patterns for dolls and bears, and we're going to have more coming in the coming years. So stay tuned for more yo-yo patterns from Karen. And also Jan Bryan Hunt is there on the right, and I'm holding a doll she created from my treasured treasured threads panels. And Jan has done some amazing wearable art with the treasured threads faux patchwork. So I'm hoping that Jan will also be one of my guests coming up in 2026. Of course, I have my personal friends that I need to mention, and I'll start there at the top. This is a picture of my friend Jean Lowe, who assisted me in publishing my Vintage Notions book. This was a girls' trip she went on with her some friends and gave them all a book. So the book's a wonderful gift if you're doing a retreat or an event with the group. And one friend of mine, Carolina Moore, at Quilt Market, used the book as an autograph book. So there's room on the pages where you could have your friends document memories, share stories. And then in the back of the book, there is a spot to record more of those memories that you make. On the upper right photo, that is my mom with her friend Peggy. Peggy, who I mentioned, she launched her Bertha's Bed quilt apparel business with. And below that are some of my best friends that are living right here on our cul-de-sac. So we had a little neighborhood party, and there they are. So it's been great to have so many friends to support me through this journey of publishing and sharing the book. And I want to also mention how this book really is wonderful for children as well as adults. So I call it, I've heard the term kidult. Um, so the kidult book is, it's a great book for that. And sharing those stories and teaching the younger generation about those quilts and stories. And there you
Amy,
are, Amy. How am I doing?
I hate to interrupt, but we've only got 5 minutes
Oh my
left, and
gosh. Okay.
so I want to make sure we have just a few minutes to answer some questions. Can
Okay.
I ask you a few questions?
Yes, of course.
Okay, we've got one who says, "Is Maureen asks, is the history of the item included in the book?"
On the landing page for the book, that cute PDF, those PDFs have some history in those on those PDFs. And the also the landing page where that video is, I told you about the quilt block history. That page also has more of the history of the characters. And
Oh,
I'm
great.
continuing to share that on my blog. So if people would like to, again, follow along on the various platforms, I'm definitely looking towards this year to share a lot of information.
Great. And Lucy just reposted the resource page link.
Okay.
Susan asks, are the baseball head dolls so named because the two seams we see on the faces are like the seams of a baseball?
Yes, that
Okay.
is what I believe the story was on those.
That's so cool.
Yeah, yeah. No, I've heard some other little stories, but I really think that is the main history behind it.
And Deborah asks about the patterns. And again, the patterns are accessible via the QR code um,
In
throughout the
the
book or at the end.
It's at the end, so it's a full story, and then in the last couple pages, there are 2 pages that are allow you to write memories, and then the last page has the QR code and the links and a little more information. And I'll say also, I didn't mention this, in the front of the book, there's an inscription page that says, "Thanks for being my friend," so people can dedicate the book to someone too.
Yes, and you gave me a copy and I gifted it and I used that inscription page and it was so special. And my friend who I gave it to said she's going to give it to a great grandchild. So,
Oh,
really, I think I mentioned this in the chat, but I want to say it before we go that this is such a wonderful way to start the year because Textile Talks is a weekly opportunity to make new friends and connect with
right.
others who share your passion. This was so wonderful, Amy. And this is why we're friends because I love
Yes,
all these things that you love. And when we see each other in person, we talk about these things. And as
right,
Michelle commented, I'm a yo-yo nut. I love yo-yos. So I hope that I just want to encourage our audience. I want to speak to you directly. If you're coming to Textile Talks every week, please reach out to other people. Tell other people
right.
in your community about Textile Talks. But use this as an opportunity to make some new friends. Amy's given you a great opportunity, a vehicle for passing on and connecting to other people. But I hope that you will do that. This is a tough time of year for a lot of people,
Oh,
and we all have some wonderful common ground, and this is a great place to share that and make connections. I
it
love that.
it truly is. So, last slide here, Amy. This is, well,
So
speaking
cute.
of connecting, this was at QuiltCon, this photo. We have a lot of fun at QuiltCon. I have fun with you at QuiltCon. So, that's where I'll be next in North Carolina. And I also wanted to, it's all about the community. And I think this book has the opportunity to expand the love of quilts and textiles and handmade. So I hope, like you said, people engage in a museum, a quilt guild, go to a new quilt shop, and really make new friendships based on your creativity. And I'd love to be there to help people along their journey. So again, I hope that all of you out there will choose to follow along.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Amy. That was amazing. Just loved it. Loved seeing all the book, the work that you've done. You have accomplished so much in our community, and we really appreciate your being here.
Oh, thank you so much. It's been great.
Wonderful. And I hope that you all will join us next week for Handwork 2026 Fiber Focus presented by Sakwa. And I want to thank all our sponsors and our donors like you for supporting this programming and allowing us to continue making Textile Talks a free series. Thank you for joining us today, everyone. Thanks,
Thanks so
Amy.
much. Take care. Bye,
You
everyone.
too.